Let's do a short review of a book we put together a little while ago called Decade in Daylight. There's two reasons this book is important. Because first, it was the first book that I put together in support of my business. Second, it is a template for sales success that's sort of unparalleled and kind of ridiculous. One of the major components that we suffer anytime that we're in a sales situation is that the presentation of what we say is just words. When you have proof of results, the conversation changes. Now, the book that we're talking about is Decade in Daylight. We put it together a little while ago. And basically, all the book does is time and again, we have a before and an after image. So this is the home that we're talking about, and we're having a conversation saying, yes, we can pipe daylight in, and this is what you're going to look like at the end, is sort of impossible to say verbally. So what we did was effectively we took, I think it was 70 different homes where we had success. We did the before and after images to proof our work as proof of completion. In the construction industry, a lot of times what you'll suffer is you'll do the work and then somebody will claim, maybe not a possibly. It's hard to argue with before and after pictures that show obviously the same room. So the guarantee was, when we install your lighting system, it will boost the light in your room. For example, moment of credibility here, the only light in this room is one of the ones that we installed in my office. The core summary of the book is effectively 70 or 80 jobs, just before and after images. And it's all work that we did. So when we assembled the book and put the whole book together, suddenly it's a record of success. It's not just there as a nice to have. This is not something like a coffee table book that you would purchase. This Decade in Daylight became a part of our sales process. The statistics on the business were pretty normal. We had about a 50% close rate. It was between a 40 and 50% close rate, call it a 45% on average. We enter the home, in-home sales close rate, 45% of the time. When we completed those jobs, the average size of those jobs was $1,750 per invoice across all the product lines that we did, both ventilation and lighting systems, and the different permutations of it. When we deployed the Decade in Daylighting sales book, suddenly what happened was our close rate was 96%. Ridiculous as it sounds, we went 24 for 25. The invoice size tripled. I'm going to say that again. The size of our invoices tripled while our closing rate doubled. The average size of our invoice went from $1,750 to between $4,500 and $6,000 every single visit. Just by putting the book into play, we 6x'd our business. The really standout theme with Decade in Daylight was sales credibility. Because what it did was it fundamentally altered the conversation. Our salesman would move into a scheduled appointment, meet with the homeowners, and what would happen was the mister would typically ask questions, and he'd ask the technical questions that guys like to ask. And we would present the book. The missus would accept the book, and she would start flipping through the book, listening to the conversation. At some point during the conversation, the missus would stop the presentation and say, I want one there, one there, one there, and one there. Every time the there was declared, was a $1,500 cash register ring. The credibility of having the results pictured was extremely important. It's 6x our business for the period that we ran with the book. The process and unique elements to the book were tied directly to the sales process and the presentation of our products, because when you go in and you say, yes, it'll do wonderful things, make your home very pretty, there's a huge range of expectations there that are hard for people to believe because it's just words. The standout presentation was just history. And because we're doing the one picture is worth 1,000 words kind of thing, every time we're flipping pages, there's picture in picture, before and after. And what's happening is it's 1,000 words, 2,000 words, 4,000 words, 8,000 words, and it's going quickly. While the sales conversation is happening, the presentation of what is being done is also being shown. That was an extremely effective delivery mechanism for us. Putting the book together physically was taxing because there was a lot of organization, setting it up correctly. It was an earlier book that I'd produced, so I did not have as much experience with assembling books as I do now. My personal take and recommendation on the book is not so much to buy Decade and Daylighting for any home improvement installation. Decade and Daylighting is the greatest example of a book that assists sales, which is important because that's one of the things that we're doing. A few months ago, we started having conversations with some real estate friends of ours about building a book to help her close sales. We did the prototype book, and when it arrived, basically everybody in her office said that they want one. It's been extremely effective as a second use case. When we produced the book and we got it into her hands and she used it, it's demonstrably improved her business. That's pretty much where we're pointing. We're not really recommending a purchase of Decade and Daylight for Decade and Daylighting's sake. It's more a let's build a sales book for you kind of conversation. That's more where we would be pointing when we talk about Decade and Daylighting. As far as a review, I think we're going to close it up there and let that dog lay. So you have a great day.